Whether you call it technoference, phubbing, or just plain annoying, dealing with technology in our relationships can be really challenging. From over 50 years of research, we know that the quality of our social connections is the number one predictor of our happiness. We also know from the research, I know we know a lot, that social media, email, online gaming, and texting are poor substitutes for those crucial in-person interactions that help us feel safe and secure and happy. So since smartphones, social media, and other technology are pervasive and universal, how do we find the balance? Well, today I'm sharing all the things you need to know about how technologies are impacting your relationships and my top 7 tips for finding balance and connection instead. So stay tuned. Welcome back to the podcast. I am your host, Dr. Abby Medcalf. Very excited to be here. So happy you're joining me today. Technology. Oh, do we have a big topic? We are going to go everywhere today. I've had a lot of people write in. I'm really excited. I do want to start by just saying that I am not a technology hater. I like technology. I love being in the Apple store. I'm not going to lie. And I'm not a big social media person. As I've shared before, I'm in my late 50s and social media just wasn't around for the vast majority of my life. And then when it was around, I did not partake in it for years and years. It just didn't interest me. And then, probably 7 years ago, 6 years ago, I started dabbling. And I have to admit, I've always felt like a real immigrant to social media, not a native. But I don't hate it, or I don't think it's the worst thing that ever happened to us as a nation or as a country or as a world. So I do want to say that, but I do want to put that out there that a lot of the statistics I found shocked me because I am older and it's not such a part of my life. What I always do when I'm doing a topic like this, as you know, is I write down all my thoughts. I write down everything I know about a topic, and I write down all my client experiences, what I think my tips are, all the things I've talked about, all that. Then I go research. I see, what do other people say about it besides a good old me? And as always, all the research, if you don't believe me, all the links will be on my website, abbymedcalf.com/podcast or /relationship tips and tools. Or you can just do a search on the website itself, a keyword around technology, and it'll pop right up. So if you want to go look and double check all my findings. I also want to say that I try to be very careful with the research that I do share, that it's large populations, that it's not, 50 people from some East African village who would be lovely. And I hope you're listening from an East African village, but not necessarily, globally can be reapplied and re-examined in the same way. So I try to look at research that has been replicated, has large sample sizes, etc. I also want to say, as you know, we're in so many countries now, I really do try to represent some other large, where most of my listenership is, which would include mostly English-speaking countries. I don't know how God bless everybody else who listens who's not. So I do try to look, the UK, Canada, Australia. I have to tell you, this thing was going to be about 5 hours long, and I didn't think you'd sit with me for 5 hours, nor did I want to sit here for 5 hours. I thought I'd get tired. So I'm going to be talking about the United States today, really, as I talk about the research. However, I did try to pull things that I also saw in the research from other countries so that this would be as, as many people friendly as universally friendly as possible. I did try to do that. But as you're listening, this might not apply to you. You might be older, younger than the demographic or whatever, of who this is for. Just take what you want and leave the rest, right? At any time you're listening, also, if you find yourself getting defensive or angry at something I'm saying or thinking, well, that doesn't apply to me, or that's stupid, Abby, or whatever, I would really ask you, that's probably something you need to hear that you don't want to hear. Usually when we respond that way, it's because we're being defensive. Think about it. We're defending something that we believe or we hold dear. So I ask you to take a breath, to listen like you're wrong, not like you're right, and see if there's something you could take away. It doesn't mean I'm right about everything I talk about. God knows. If you want to be right, you can get your own podcast. But I I'm putting it out there and it does apply to a lot of people. So the likelihood it applies to you is kind of high, or at least pieces of it do. So, again, try to listen with an open mind, take what you want, leave the rest. Okay. Is there anything else I felt like I had to say first? I think that's it. I just didn't want you to think I have some sort of adversarial relationship with technology or something weird. I think it's, again, I'm not really into social media, but, I do love the games on my phone. I'm not going to lie. I love those things. And so, just keep it in mind. Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, we've got over 50 years of happiness research showing us unequivocally that the number one predictor of happiness and life satisfaction are the quality of your relationships with your partners, friends, family, coworkers, even your neighbors show up, okay? People with more friends are less likely to experience sadness, loneliness, low self-esteem, and problems eating or problems sleeping. I mean, it goes on and on how there's protective factors. It's so good. So social media, email, texting, they do make it easier to connect, obviously. But the question is, does that connection do the job of making us happier? And the answer from the research and kind of all of it, and I'll give you some things that will show it could be connecting later in the tips, but the research shows pretty much no. Take it as a no. Studies have shown over and over that social media, online gaming, email, and texting were no substitute for in-person interactions with people. Voice call, phone calls and video calls were somewhat better in the research, but then there's some research that shows that that's not even that great as we thought, as much connection as we thought. Obviously, in so many situations, that's your best bet is to get on a Zoom or and if you're watching me on YouTube right now, say hi, hello, give a little comment below or something. Say hi that you're listening. And please subscribe and like the video if you like it. It always helps to get more subscribers, more people know. And if you watch on YouTube, you can see the fabulous outfits I wear every week. Because I think about it. I think, what am I going to wear on the podcast today? Okay. So when you lower your social connectedness in general, it not only does it suck for you, but it also hurts the people you love, and especially kids. There was one of the studies I read it was a big study too, showed that 62% of kids thought their parents were too distracted to listen to them. And the number one reason they listed was their parents' phone use. I gotta tell you, I was checking myself big when I read that. And it doesn't take Freud, right, to see that when you take part in any sort of isolated diversion, scrolling through social media, playing video games, watching videos on your phone or on your computer, you're obviously reducing the amount of social interaction and connection you could be having in any given moment with the people around you, right? Or you could be reducing, if you're home alone, well, go out and meet some people, right? Go out and see some folks. But we are reducing that, obviously. I hope you see that. Every time you do that, you're reducing something else. So just be aware. It doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means you need to be aware. So I want to talk technology in general, and then I'll get kind of, more granular. So again, this is from the Pew Research Center here in the United States, they do have some international research too, but and I really do like their research overall. So they found that 51% of people say their partner, so over half of people, just over half, say their partner is often or sometimes distracted by their cell phone when they're trying to have a conversation with them. I know. 40, and remember, that just asked cell phone. It didn't ask because it was very specific. It could have also, if you add computers, if people are distracted by a computer or just anything else, a bird flying by, you can see how distracted our partners are when we talk to them. 40% say they are often or sometimes bothered by the amount of time their partner spends on their phone. That's a lot. 34% say they've looked through their partner's cell phone without their knowledge. I think it's higher. Although, and this is funny, there was another stat that said 70% of people think it's wrong to look through your partner's cell phone without their knowledge. And I'm going to talk about passwords and whether that's okay, and looking through your partner's phone at the very end. Okay. So because if you don't care about that, don't care. But if you do care, you're going to have to listen to the end. Sorry. Or fast forward or listen to me on 1.5 speed or something. But I thought that was kind of interesting. Among partnered adults, so you don't have to be married, but partnered, women are more likely than men to say they're often bothered by the amount of time their partner spends on their cell phones or playing video games. I don't think that's a huge shock. Younger Americans in relationships are especially likely to view social media as having an important role in connecting and keeping up with their partner. This blew me away as someone who is an immigrant to social media, not a native. Holy cannoli. I have never once ever used social media as a way of connecting or looking up and seeing what Gary's doing or talking about really me and Gary very much. If you follow me, you know, I don't really, sometimes I post pictures of us getting ice cream, but that's about it. I mean, this morning on my stories on IG, I posted all about my kids leaving empty boxes around the house of food. But anyway, so Faye, follow my stories. But I couldn't believe this number. I had no idea. This really opened my eyes. So thank you for opening my eyes. About 30% of partnered adults who use social media say that these sites are at least somewhat important in showing how much they care about their partner or keeping up with what's going on in their partner's life. So of any age who use social media, again, shock to me because I don't ever do that. But as you might imagine, and of course, as I just said, that statistic varies substantially, significantly by age. So 48% of 18 to 29-year-olds said that these platforms are very important or, you know, somewhat important in how they show how much they care about their partner. Okay, that's a huge number, right? Compared with 28% of people ages 30 and older. And older, I thought was a huge category. I bet that would be like 30 to 40 and then, or 45. And then I bet over that would be almost zero. I really do. You can let me know if I'm way off, but and I'm not just saying this on myself, I'm talking about my clients and people. I work with people of all ages, and wow, yeah. So that was an eye opener for Abby. Thank you. It really helps, it helps inform my work and make me better at what I do when I know more. I have to tell you, it was one of those times I really felt old. I was like, damn, I'm old. I can't believe I didn't even guess at this. Anyway, and social media is often a source of jealousy and uncertainty in relationships, again, especially for younger adults, with women being more likely to tell their partners that they don't like what they're doing, to tell their kind of male counterpart partners that they don't like what they're doing on social media. That did not shock me because I have so many clients who have a lot of issues around jealousy and social media. Like, it happens so much. Again, I'll talk at the very end a little about that, but I have an episode I did on jealousy. You can search for jealousy or look on the show notes page. I'll link to it. But, what to do when you're jealous, because that's really what this is about. And, or maybe look up trust on my website. There are tons of episodes on trust and how to build trust and honesty. That's what this is about, not checking the phone. But anyway, okay. So Technoference is this term that it's referring to the interruptions or distractions caused by technology when you're trying to communicate with someone. So this might be that they answer or look at their phone while you're speaking to them, or they're scrolling through their feed while you're watching a movie together, or this came up the other night with a client. Their partner, actually it was a male client whose female partner was playing video games all night, and then needed to sleep later in the morning, and he was up taking care of the kids, and he was, annoyed by it because she couldn't get out of bed because she was up till like 2 a.m. playing video games. So, and these types of behavior absolutely, right, negatively impact our mood and how we feel about whatever that relationship is. And this could be happening. I'm talking about partners a lot, but I want to be clear. This could be happening when you talk to your mom, at work with a coworker, with your kids, anywhere. So please do not listen. And if you're thinking, well, I'm single, so I don't have to worry about this. Nope, you need to be listening too. I probably should have said that earlier because all the single people probably stopped listening. Anyway, so Phubbing, which I think it was episode 6 of the podcast. How do you like that? 5 years ago now. where I talked about phubbing. And so it was time for a refresh, I thought, and looking up the latest research about it and all that. So phubbing is a type of technoference, but it's specifically related to your smartphone, whether it's with your partner, a coworker, right, a friend. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who it's with. It's almost a sure thing. You've been phubbed, or you phubbed someone else. Phubbing is basically ignoring someone in favor of your phone. And whether that's intentional or not, it's more detrimental to your relationships than you think. And this, I gotta tell you, this research blows me away. And it really, immediately when I did the research, I started acting differently at home. I mean, right away. I thought, and I'm pretty good with this stuff, and I realized I wasn't as good as I thought I was. So in recent years, there's been a good amount of research on phubbing, and it's been found to decrease relationship, especially marital satisfaction. It affects each partner's feelings, including how depressed they are and their overall satisfaction with life. Is that crazy? Is that crazy? Right? It's meant to connect you, right? Phubbing is meant to connect you, right? Like with somebody on social media or, through texting or something else. But it does the opposite, doesn't it? Isn't that amazing? It actually gets in the way of your present moment in-person relationships. That's what's so crazy. It's not creating the connection elsewhere that you think you are. So that's the problem. So think of it, just think of it this way. When you're on your phone, it means you're prioritizing something or someone else over the person you're with. Period. End of. I know, I hated hearing this for myself, because part of me is thinking, well, if I'm on my phone, but the other person's on their phone, or they're doing something else, or I'm alone and I'm doing, and my kid is in the other room, or Gary's not there, or whatever, he's out, doing something. Or he's doing his own thing in the garage, then why am I? He's always in the garage. He's always in the garage or out back. That's where my Gary is. He likes to build things. He just built cornhole. Everybody know what that is? Yeah. This whole cornhole, he just built it from scratch and put it all together. He's kind of magical at building. Anyway, which I know for some of you who build, you're like, that's not hard. Well, I think it's hard. I'm amazed. And I think they look really professional when he's done. Anyway, he's made all the furniture in the backyard. He's incredible. But anyway, so he's always puttering, or he's outside working out, or for a run, or he likes to be outside. Okay. But regardless, right? So I might think, well, I'm in here and he's out there. But yeah. So, and yeah, everybody needs some alone time. I get it. But how much? And could I go outside and sit with him a little as he's building something and chat with him, even for part of that time? You just, or can I go in McCartney's room and bug her? And let her know she has to talk to her mother. I don't know. There's ways that I've been aware that I was phubbing more than I thought. And I didn't think I phubbed a lot. So it really was a good pull up for me personally. We are built as a species to be extremely attuned to other people, especially our partners, of course. So when we think that someone isn't giving us their full attention, we feel disregarded, unheard, disrespected. And again, because our expectations of our partners are higher, that it gets worse and worse for them. So here you get this. Research shows that when people have a conversation without their smartphone around, and this is regardless of age, ethnicity, gender, or starting mood, I know, they feel more connected, report better, more productive conversations, and are happier. Because it seems that when you do all that, when you're on the phone around, we feel more empathy and connection when our smartphones are put away, is basically what happens. In fact, studies have shown that this blew my mind, just having a phone out during a conversation, just sitting on the table next to you, even if it's turned over, interferes with your sense of connection to the other person. It interferes with your feelings of closeness that you experience and the quality of the conversation. And you know what the easiest way to think of this is? If you were talking to your therapist and they had their cell phone in their hand, they weren't looking at it, but they just had it in their hand. Wouldn't you be like, what the F? Right? If I was doing a talk in front of a lot of people and I just had my cell phone out, I had it up on the table even, or just in my hand, right? It's like, is there something else? Like, it's distracting. Is there something, is she going to stop at any time? Is there an important call coming in? Is there something I should know about? Should I get invested? Should I not? All this is happening on a very subconscious level, and it's drastically affecting your interactions with people and even what you talk about. When I ask couples, I thought about this. When I ask about when they first met, right? When you first met, even, or think of a best friend, someone you were just getting to know, or some coworker you love, okay? When you first met, but let's say couples right now, they often will tell me these stories about how they stayed up all night talking, or they used to talk for hours. And because it's in these moments that we connect, it's in these moments that we learn about our partners. We share our vulnerabilities, we hear the tone of their voice, we have eye contact, we sense their body language. All of that is happening. All these pieces form the foundation of our relationships. So if you want to have closer, trusting relationships with other people, you've got to have good face-to-face conversations and interactions. You just do. So, and again, at the very least, that would be like a video call. If you have people, if you're in the United States and your work is in China and you don't go there much and you're doing Zoom all the time, yeah. But you have to really focus in a different way. You have to be thoughtful that, wow, this is the hardest way to create this sort of connection. I need to really think about this. I should not be distracted. I see you on the Zoom call, muting yourself and answering emails, or not putting on the video at all because you want to do something else. You're not really there. You gotta really think about this stuff. It's impacting things. I'm not saying that for every single thing you do on Zoom, if you're on Zoom all day, you have to have your video on. But I would tell you, it's diminishing your productivity, your effectiveness, and your interactions. That's from the research. That's not me just being Jewish mother bossy, although I sound it right now. That's what we know. It's crazy, I know. And again, I want to say the same goes for your other relationships, right? If you're out at the park with your kids, get off your phone, interact with them. If you're, again, in a work meeting, don't check your emails. Don't scroll through social media under the table with your phone. Give the meeting your full attention. By the way, I think if everyone did this in those meetings, they'd be shorter and more productive, just for the record. So really think about that. Again, especially with Zoom and everything, it's harder to create that trusting connection. So you got to know that. So really see what you can do about that. Okay. So I read a book a few years ago, and I reread it for this, called Alone Together by Shelley Turkle. And she's an MIT sociologist. Fucking brilliant. I'm going to say fucking because she's brilliant. Oh my God. Girl crush, Shelley Turkle. If you're listening, if anybody knows her, tell her I love her so much. She's friggin' brilliant. She's so human. She's amazing. Can you imagine being a sociologist at MIT? Can you kind of get what that's about? Well, so she's been studying the impact of technology on how we behave alone and in groups for like over 20 years. I think it's 25, 30 years now. And her research has shown that 89% of Americans, again, I'm here in America, sorry, say that during their last social interaction, they took out a phone despite the fact that 82% said that it deteriorated the conversation they were in. I know. Think of that. Basically, we're doing something we know is hurting our interactions and we can't seem to stop ourselves. In Turkle's studies, she found that if you put a cell phone into a social interaction, it does two things, and I think this is really important. First, it decreases the quality of what you talk about because you talk about things where you wouldn't mind being interrupted. You're doing this very unconsciously. Isn't that crazy? That's what's happening. Second, it decreases the empathy, the empathic connection that people feel with each other. So they end up more disconnected and feeling like the conversation wasn't satisfying. Is that crazy? I know. And again, using a smartphone in any of these social interactions doesn't just hurt the relationship, it also devalues your own experience. In one study, they found that people who use their smartphone while dining out with friends experienced less interest and enjoyment and more boredom than people who didn't use a cell phone when they were out with friends. And I have to tell you, these days, it's always hard for me. I will often look around, I'll see a family and all the kids are on their phones, or I'll see 6 young people sit down and they're all on their phones. I'm like, you're out to dinner, talk to each other. There's just something, and I get it. I know some of you are like, oh, Abby, get over it. You're just old and crusty and cranky. And I am, I guess, a little, except that, I think we're getting meaner and meaner to each other in a lot of ways. And a lot of this has to do with it. We know from the research from this distance. And again, I also know it's making you more depressed. I just gave you the research. If you're sitting out to dinner, if you go to all the trouble to all go out to dinner, just try it once. Everybody put your cell phones away. Check it out. See what comes up. See what you have to talk about. It's probably going to be uncomfortable if you're not used to it because it's a skill to talk. It's a skill. Conversation's a skill. But, come with a list of questions. Ask everybody what their favorite vacation would be. If they had all the money in the world, what would they do for one day? What would their perfect day look like? There's a million things you can talk about with somebody. And by the way, even if you've been married 100 years or with your partner 100 years and you're thinking, well, we've already talked about everything. No, you haven't. Are you kidding me? You're telling me you've been with your partner 20 years and you haven't learned one new thing in 20 years? Seriously? There's something going on. Talk about this episode. Talk about I don't care, but have a chat, okay? Because phubbing, again, from the research, these are the people who are going to be looking up my research. They're like, screw you, Abby, I'm looking this up. Well, please do, because there's tons of it, okay? Studies have also shown that phubbing hurts our mental health in other ways. It's been found to threaten what are called the 4 fundamental needs, which are self-esteem. I have to remember them now. The 4 fundamental needs are meaningful existence, self-esteem, control, and belongingness. And being on our phone and that kind of thing is found to diminish our relationship to those things within ourselves. So the act of phubbing causes people to feel excluded, diminished, I'm not that important if you're looking at your phone, and ostracized. It's really bad. And I think in some ways that we've just been in a lot of denial when it comes to our phones. We see the damage when others phub us, but we still do it ourselves. And some of us, it's really sad, don't even realize the damage, don't even think it's happening, are so used to it. It's so ubiquitous. It's so everywhere. It's so universal. You're like, oh, I don't think it's affecting my relationships, Abby, except every time we do the research, it shows it does. So, again, listen like you're wrong. I'm not going to tell you to get rid of all your social media or something at the end of this. So be calm. Okay. I'm going to give you good tips, and we keep checking our phones because even though we know it's very bad for us, it's difficult to just stop. It's a compulsive behavior. We check our phones, our email, our social media accounts, because it provides us with something that researchers call variable ratio reinforcement. And this is the same thing that happens on slot machines. What it means is that once in a while, we get an email, a comment or like on social media, or a message that for some reason is particularly rewarding, and that once in a while is enough to keep us checking compulsively the rest of the time. Okay? So you're built this way. That's why slot machines work. You are built this way. You don't have to get something, Chuck E. Cheese here in America. I don't think other countries have Chuck E. Cheese. I remember looking it up once. I think a few other countries do, and I'm sorry, but it's just this place, and you go in and you pay all this money for your kids to run around like crazy people and eat really bad pizza. Sorry, Chuck E. Cheese, but it is, and you know that too. But there's all these games and things to climb and all that. But the games, they get like tickets, right? When they win a game. All these little kinds of games. And then they can go, there's this stand with all these super cheap, like nothing little prizes. I use that term loosely, like little pieces of plastic, like a tin, like a plastic whistle or something, and up to, of course, some bigger things, which no kid ever has enough tickets for. And unless you've spent like $1,000 to get that, $5 stuffed animal. And literally, but it's addicting, little kids, it's the same thing. It is this reinforcement ratio that's happening. So, and consider this, I read this, blew my mind. There's Wilhelm, I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. I think it's Hoffman. He's at Chicago University. He had research that showed that the urge to check social media is stronger than the urge for sex. We are, as I said, profoundly social creatures, and having connection and a sense of belonging are really crucial for our health and happiness. And research again shows that lacking these connections or loneliness can be worse for your health than smoking, high blood pressure, and obesity. So, it's bad. We screw up. We look for connection on social media at the cost of these face-to-face opportunities for true intimacy, right? And our smartphones, ironically or not, are tricking us into thinking we're connected when really we're sacrificing true, close, and connected relationships for these things. Just saying, okay? Again, they're not evil. We got to figure out how to use them. They're here in our lives. I'm not giving up my smartphone, so we're going to talk. And I will say, here's the argument I get from some people. They'll say, well, what if I'm interacting, You might be arguing with me right now that, I text a lot and DMs on social media or even email doesn't do harm to my social relationships because it's interactive. But the problem with these type of technologies is that we lose something called dimensionality. No matter how many emojis you might use, texting and DMs on social media, they just can't convey emotion very well because so much of communication is, of course, visual and auditory. It's being with the person. In my research, there was something I read by Arthur C. Brooks. He's again, another crush I have. I have a lot of crushes on people who research and stuff. Emotional crushes, of course. He said something like that the technologies, right, are, and excuse me if I'm killing this. I'll try to find the actual quote for my blog, okay? And he said that these technologies are like to in-person interactions what a black and white pixelated version of the Mona Lisa is to the real thing. Do you see where I'm going here? He says, it's identifiable. It's the Mona Lisa, but it's incapable of producing the same emotional effects. If you were to see some pixelated black and white thing of the Mona Lisa, if you're standing in front of it, watching it, and I've been there, I cried. I don't know. It was big. It felt like a big moment. Or other art. If you don't like the Mona Lisa, you can substitute other art in that place, right? It's different when you're there, when you see it, when you're seeing all the dimensions of something, when you're sharing it with other people around you. It just all changes it, right? So think of it like that. I know, it was brilliant. And I will find the quote. I feel like I'm close, but anyway. So when you're texting, DMing, whatever, emails, you're obviously having a more shallow conversation and interaction, which again, doesn't fill the connection bucket. When you talk face-to-face with someone, you go deeper, you have more extensive communication. And again, we know from the research that these deeper talks bring you more well-being than those shorter, kind of surface conversations. Okay, I'm going to give you two more things from the research and then we're going to move on a little bit. Teens who texted more than their peers experienced more anxiety, depression, and aggression and had worse relationship with their dads, which I thought was interesting. In a few studies that was replicated more than once. And in another study I saw, it said that you'll feel more understood and satisfied with your partner when you have more face-to-face communication just overall, right? And that was, again, that was in a few studies, and I've already said that. I'm going to take a minute before we get to the tips to just talk about video games really quickly. Because video games, I don't want to do a whole episode on this. People have asked. I'm not gonna, because everything kind of applies. It's for the same reasons, I think. So I want to say this. A lot of people use the word addiction. There's no in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders at this point, there's nothing in there for video addiction or pornography addiction or cell phone addiction. We don't have that yet. It doesn't mean isn't real. It just means we haven't caught up and it created that. I know the World Health Organization, I didn't look, before I did this, was coming out with some diagnostic criteria. I don't know if they said it was or not. I should have looked at that first. Sorry, I'm already deep in right here. We're okay. What my point is, don't throw around that term addiction so loosely if someone that you know or love, plays video games a lot. I will say, though, there's problematic use, right? It's the same with any form of technology, right? Video games can be fun. They can be an escape, but they can also feel like an addiction. It can be, in a wonderful way, a time to decompress, to just, like having a little one martini in the afternoon, right? or it can create isolation arguments. So when video gaming becomes obsessive is when it becomes a problem. And I would say, and these are just mine, so I didn't get these from anywhere. These are just what I've seen and what I've read. Unhealthy video gaming, as far as I'm concerned, looks like having one or more of these, which is people who consistently play for longer periods of time than they first said. Like, so they're like, oh, I'm just going to play for an hour, and then it's 3 hours later and they're still playing. That's problematic. They got hooked in there. Their brain got a little hijacked. Not being able to relax any other way. If video games are the only way you can relax, to me, that's a problem. In the same way that if drinking is the only way you can relax, I think that's a problem. It doesn't mean you're an alcoholic or a video game addict. It just means it's a problem, and you should look at it and try to foster other ways to relax. If you are looking forward to playing more than you look forward to spending time with the important people in your life, I think that's a problem. And again, something I see with some regularity. And everyone maybe looks forward occasionally a little more to playing than, being with someone at a certain time. But if it's always that way, if it's so consistent, that's what I want you to look at. If you're spending time playing while you're ignoring important life functions, such as interacting with your kids, you never go to the park with your kids because you're playing video games, or interacting with your partner, or cleaning, or personal hygiene, or exercise, or work. If you stayed up all night watching video games and you're tired, you can drag in your ass at work the next day. That's consistently. If you do that once in a while, it's no big deal to me. But if you're doing that once a week, or more, that's a problem. There's something going on. If you're continuing to play despite negative consequences, so if you've had health issues, arguments with your partner, arguments with your family, complaints from your kids, problems at work that are somehow related to your playing, even if you don't think it's a problem, but everybody else does, that to me is an issue. I did see one study. I kind of don't want to quote it. I don't think it was good enough. It was a small study. Look, I said I'd never do this, but I'm going to do it. But it did show, it was a small study on divorce that showed that about that video gaming came up as either a reason or at least a partial reason in about 15% of divorce cases in this one study. I could not find that replicated anywhere, so I'm just throwing that out there though. But it's interesting it got found at all. All right, so again, you don't have to banish video gaming, but if it's caused arguments or issues, it's likely, time to start making some changes with its importance in your life. Like, to me, that's what you have to think about, right? If it's done that. So, okay, so let's talk about my 7 tips to deal with technology in your relationships. Okay, so 7 tips to deal with technology in your relationships. Okay. First and foremost, I want you to think of technology as a complement to your relationships and your life, not a substitute for your relationships and your life. That's it. If you can do that everywhere, you're in good stead. If you're looking at it as a substitute for connection, as a substitute for communication with your partner, then there's a problem. If you see it as a complement, as something that adds, then great. And the relationships in your life feel strong and fabulous and close and good and wonderful and yummy and connected. Then I think it can be really fun to play video games with your kids. I think it can be really fun to sit side by side in bed, scrolling and sharing funny reels on TikTok. I think it can be really connecting I text Gary, during the day sometimes with, just that I'm thinking about him or I love him or, something like that. Just my, not every day. I don't think I do that, but with, I try to, I do a little quick video on my phone. He likes to see me, send him a little video. There's an example of that, face to face, a little better. Instead of a text, I send a little video via text. Just a quickie, giving them a kiss. Maybe showing a little boob. Yeah, I've done it. Showing a little boob. Whatever. Sexting's good. We like that. I think that can be good. I just think that there's ways, of course, that it can complement your relationship. And I think you know the difference. So with that in mind, here are my top tips to create balance and connection when it comes to technology in your relationship. And tip number one is probably not going to be a surprise, and we're not going to spend much time on it because I talk about it so damn much. You got to practice mindfulness. Oh my God, Abby, really? Mindfulness again? Yes. Yes, I'm shouty capitals. Yes, I'm yelling at you. Yes, yes, yes. If you're not aware, I wasn't aware. I'm a mindfulness queen. I friggin' meditate every day. I teach this shit. Oh my God. And then when I did this research and I looked, I realized all the places that I'm on my phone that I don't have to be. I was like, damn. Even the other day, I totally put this into practice. I was waiting in line at the grocery store. I love my Trader Joe's. And I wasn't in my phone. I was like, stop looking at your phone when you're in the grocery store. Just stand in line. Be a person. Talk to others maybe. Who knows? And sure enough, I've done this now 3 times. It's really funny. I've caught myself on my phone. I've put it down. I think God is just trying to screw with me. But 3 times now, people have come up to talk to me that I've kind of 2 times people I knew, other moms. And another time, this sort of person I didn't know I knew, but our daughters hang out. And she recognized me and I don't know how, I forgot to ask that, but came over and said hi and introduced herself. How nice. If I had been with my head down in my phone, number 1, she might not have come over at all. And number 2, she might not have recognized me because my head was down in my phone. So I'm just saying, like, wow, how lovely. And just, by the way, to sit there and breathe, I was practicing some meditation. I was doing a little open eye meditation a few times. Just, take it in my surroundings, just being in the moment. Yes. Get off your phone when you can, especially in those things. In my experience, again, the vast majority of people aren't even aware that they're phubbing or being unhealthy in some way with technology. It's become just such a pervasive part of daily life and just such a habit. It was becoming a habit for me to get on my phone when I'm waiting online. Sometimes, by the way, it's to read a book. I used to carry a book around. Actually, I still do. It's in the back of my car. And I've come back to that. Like if I'm waiting at the DMV, if I'm going to be somewhere long, I've gotten, used to just carrying a real book around and opening a real book again. Just to sort of shift some of the energy of getting too lost in my phone. I think it's really helpful. So learning to be mindful and making mindfulness a habit, a consistent habit, has to be first and foremost, has to be your first step. So, and I've got my free Mindfulness Starter Kit on the website, and I'll link to it in these show notes and on this, page in the blog and all the good things. It's everywhere. It's on the shop page otherwise, and it's free. You just have to put in your email. You get on my weekly love letter list, which you should want to be on. It's wonderful. I send out a love letter every week to everybody. I'm not selling anything. I'm not doing anything sleazy. I'm just trying to motivate you during the week and give you a little story, little something, little thing I've noticed, something maybe, my clients have, given me an aha moment about, and I share that in some pithy, fabulous way in my weekly thing. And if you don't like it, unsubscribe. I'm not going to notice. There's lots of people on there. I promise you can unsubscribe and I will not see. So get the Mindfulness Starter Kit, damn it, and just start doing it. Or come on over to the website, put in mindfulness. There's tons of how to make it a habit and how it saves your relationship and all the good things, okay? It's all there. I'm not going to do it. All right. Tip number 2, create device-free spaces. So I want you to designate, your car, the kitchen table, your bed, the backyard, the deck, I don't care, as a device-free zone. And these spaces are set aside for face-to-face conversations only. I would say to do it at meal times no matter what. We have never, ever had cell phones out, whether we're out to eat or home. Cell phones are not at the table, period. You're not on the cell phone. My teenagers able to do it well. And by the way, my teenagers know how to talk to people. Shocking having me as a mom, right? No, I'm serious. They know how to talk to people. They know how to have a conversation and make eye contact. Yeah, because it's a skill. It's not something you're born with. You got to practice it. And because they're not always, they go out to dinner with family or with us sitting around the table, we have conversations about things. We talk about things. It doesn't mean I don't share funny TikTok videos, with my kids sometimes when I find them. I do like those TikTok videos sometimes. I'm such a creeper. I don't, I put my social media person posts my reels on TikToks, or my little videos on TikTok, but I'm not on there myself really, but I have a separate private account, not a professional one, where I just lurk, follow lots of cool people. Anyway, And sometimes I find something interesting or funny, I send it to them. But even that's not a ton because I'm not on there a ton. But when we're sitting in to eat, whether that's Gary or I, it doesn't matter. There's no phones. It's just no phones. It's not that hard. It doesn't take us that long to eat. We're not there for 3 hours. My God, put your fucking phones away. Just put them away. It's okay. You're not going to die. I had 40 years of meals without a phone around. You know what I mean? It's okay. You're going to be fine. I swear I survived. So, if you have lunch with a friend, put it away. A coffee break with a colleague, put it away. Again, just don't put your phone on the table either. Don't have it out. Don't have it near. Remember the research I just quoted? Just make meals maybe a time when you are there to listen and communicate. If you're eating alone, try that still. Make it a device-free zone. I know. You're like, what? Yes. Just try to sit. For the 10 minutes it takes you to eat, the 5 minutes it takes you to eat, it's pretty quick to eat. It doesn't take that long. Just sit, look out the window, pet your dog. I don't know, maybe don't pet your dog and eat, but you know what I mean. Try to maybe read a book or a magazine, but try to just get off your phone and that kind of thing. Just try to be really present with your food. Just if you can keep food as a thing where you don't do other things, it's healthy anyway. And if you're out, you might talk to the person at the next table if you're alone. Who knows? Anyway, okay. Tip number 3 is to do a Techno Fast, which is different than what I just said. What I just said was to create a sacred space where there's no technology. Okay, all the time. However you want to do that. But a Techno Fast is a little different. You would stay off your phone completely for an entire day or a weekend or whatever. And if you feel like you can't do this, just think about fasting intervals during the day. Be off your phone or have it locked in a drawer or leave it in your car. Let's say from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. and again from 1 to 4 p.m. People are gasping right now. I can hear you all the way from other countries. I can hear you. Just try it. You're going to be more productive. I'll tell you that right now, and I've talked about this on I don't want to get too deep because that's its own episode, I think. But we know again from the research that just having your phone near you, your brain, because of that slot mentality, it's distracted because it wants to look at the phone. It knows that there's something there. So if you have it where it can't even get to it, and by the way, you'll get a little exercise in between things. You can walk out to the car at noon and go get your phone, and give yourself a little exercise instead of sitting at your desk nonstop, or do it for 1 hour or 2 hours, whatever. But I'm telling you, so right now, when I do the podcast, my phone is in a drawer in this cabinet I have over here. Can't see it. But that's what I do with it. I just have it so I can completely immerse myself I don't have to worry even about that little vibrating noise. Nothing. I can't hear it. I can't see it. It's beautiful. Every now and then I've forgotten and to put it away when I'm doing it, and it'll vibrate. And I swear it does. It pulls me. So just maybe only check your phone at 2 preset times per day. Whatever it is, or just say I'm going to check it for 15 minutes or whatever that is. I also highly recommend doing this with social media or video games. Do a fast for a few hours, a day, a week. Make the commitment, and what's important is to pay close attention to your feelings when you have the urge to grab your device. You're going to notice all the things you're pushing in there, and it's not healthy stuff. So try a fast. Try it out. See how it goes. Okay? Do everything you have to do to make it happen. All right. Tip number 4 is to replace electronic interactions with face-to-face ones. Try to do that once a week, twice a week, once a day, whatever. I've, again, already listed a ton of research that says that one of the very best things you can do for both your physical and mental health is to build strong social relationships. And those relationships, right, where we have in person, we know are better for you, right? They're more intimate, more connected. I hope I've made that point by now. So again, you might have a follower on Instagram that you chat with all the time, but if you got sick, this person's not coming over to bring you some chicken soup. I'm telling you that right now. Or you really don't want them to know where you live, I hope. But anyway, confusing lots of contact with actual closeness and intimacy is a big problem. So instead of spending that time chatting on social media, make a lunch date with a friend, spend some quality time. We know that any activities that involve other people, whether it's going to a party, sitting down for lunch, playing sports, attending religious services, they all have positive effects on our mental health, right? It's the face-to-face social interactions that improve our mood and reduce depression. They help us feel safe and connected. They help us feel that we belong. All those, right? They raise our self-esteem. All the things. I have, a list of people where I try to have like girlfriend, dinner out with a girlfriend every other week, that kind of thing. Like for myself, I try to plan this stuff. I try to think about how I can see people and where, what things Gary and I are going on date night tonight. And it's not a weekend, just picking a night, just going out together. We get all excited. Can I tell you something really cool? Actually, was it last week or the week before when we were on date night? A little date. We don't have one night that's like date night. We move it around. But anyway, we were out and it was really cool. We were sitting and the server said to us, "Oh, we were being adorable and cute," because we are. And the server asked if we were on our first date. And I thought that was such a compliment. I was so excited. I said, "No, we've been together for years." And it was such a lovely, it was very cool. It felt really good. I'm like, I like that we got first date vibes, maybe, not the icky ones, where you're uncomfortable, but we are always touching and we're cute and we giggle and all the things. And we chit chat. We like to chit chat. We were chatting. So, anyway, it was kind of cool. All right, moving on. Tip number 5, do your best to shift your perspective. Okay, so if you're the one being phubbed, try not to take offense or get upset or get really angry. I want you to remember the other person is following this sort of biologically driven impulse. So do your best to be compassionate and patient while trying to problem solve at some point, not when you're upset. Remember you have to connect to correct. So wait till you're feeling more connected and then bring up the technology thing. Say, hey, can we talk about the technology in our relationship? I'd really just like to just figure it out. Just talk about kind of what our ground rules are. I was listening to this podcast with Abby and it definitely, throw in some research that I said or something. If you want, you can listen together. Maybe if they will, I don't know if they will. If they won't listen, maybe they'll read the blog post about it. Try that. But if not, just talk about it. Don't worry about having them go read something and report back. Just talk about, say, I'd like to just, when we're talking, how can we create a rule that we don't have our phones out or whatever? And but listen like you're wrong, listen and be curious, ask questions, why the phone is out, what else can we do? What times maybe are exclusively no phone, no whatever interruptions, and what times are okay, that kind of thing. Don't make it an all or nothing. Whenever I speak to you, you have to put your phone away. That's going to get hard. But, you can do other things. You can talk about other ways to do this. And, just be clear about how you feel about it. Just let them know it really is hurting my feelings. I'm having a hard time. I'm not feeling connected. And the research says why. It's not me being needy or clingy. Like, this is a real thing. And it's hurting you. It's hurting both of us. It's hurting our connection. So I just want to figure out a way that we can be proactive doing things that create connection. Just focus on creating connection. You don't have to focus so much on the no connection part. Focus on how you're going to create it. And guess what? Cell phones will not be involved. There you go. It's even easier. The next time, you're with another human being and you feel tempted to pull out your phone, stop yourself, put it away, take the opportunity to look them directly in the eyes, really listen to what they have to say, right? Just set up in your mind, just shift that mindset some, okay? Tip number 6 is to set up some Techno Times. So again, these are all a little different. The fast, the places, the sacred places where there's no technology, okay? So have a conversation with your partner, kids, or other important people in your life, whoever that is, about, again, the effect technology is having on your relationship. Again, remember to focus on feelings, not facts. And again, discuss how to find balance. This really goes with that last one where we're trying to figure this out with our partners and have a different mindset. So now you're going to put that into action and really discuss how to find balance, and then set up if you can, specific times to allow technology instead of being an all-day, never-ending thing. I think that's the thing. Maybe your partner plays video games 4 nights a week from 9 to 11, and, that's just a given. And then again, you find other times to connect. You don't every night go, oh, I'm not connecting, and they're going to play video games because they don't love me. By the way, that doesn't mean they don't love you. Stop putting meaning with it. That's part of the last tip of changing your perspective. And instead, just think about, well, what could we do to create connection? Like that doesn't. So, and if that's, taking up so much time, talk to your partner. Say, it really feels like it's interfering, but I understand you want to do it. So let's talk about how that can look. Like, how can we create a balance for ourselves so that you can get what you need and I can get what I need? Maybe you get to go escape and play games on your phone or scroll through social media every day from 3 to 4. And someone else looks after the kid or your kids or walks the dog or whatever. Maybe all electronics go off after 9 p.m. I hear you gasping. Or maybe you do that one night a week. I mean, don't get so black and white with everything, right? Start small if you need to. I definitely, no matter what, highly encourage you to move your smartphone away from your bed and get a real alarm clock. I want to say that. It's just too accessible. It's too easy. It's like having a plate of brownies next to your bed all the time. It's just too hard. I don't even know. So if you notice, all of this is about, all these tips so far are really about creating some boundaries, some clarity of expectations. You have to be clear with your expectations for yourself and others, because it's also going to haven't you yourself, you probably complaining about your partner doing something, but haven't you ever caught yourself 3 hours later looking through, I don't know, TikTok or whatever, or IG or whatever, you've gone down a rabbit hole on the internet, maybe surfing for something or looking for something. I mean, it's easy. YouTube videos for hours. It's very easy to get caught up, binge watching something. So when you have limits for yourself too, it'll help you kind of put things in a box and be more limited about it, right? It'll help you get up off the couch and go do something else. So just be clear with those expectations for yourself, for other people. It keeps the disappointments low and the connections high, which is great. And number 7 is a very granular one. Okay, this one is really getting nitty gritty. I want you, in tip number 7 is to text facts, not feelings. I know. I'm going to tell you, probably people come to me all the time telling me about fights, about misunderstandings they've had over or due to texting. And the amount of confusion, miscues, frustrations that people experience due to texting blows my mind. So you want to have this one rule: text only facts, not feelings. Make texting only be for logistics or emergencies. Nothing else. No conversations should happen over text that have any emotion, any inner thoughts, deeper messages. In other words, so if you have to use an emoji to be understood, you shouldn't text it. Whatever you text should be totally understandable without an LOL or a joke or a sad face, right? Everything. If you're ready to share some feelings or discuss an issue, it's time to stop texting and start talking face to face. Again, or by video or by phone at the very least. The closer you can get to that, the better. We've become a society too accustomed to speaking at a distance, and this leads to saying things we'd never say in person. And again, to misunderstandings and to misconstruing things, and because we don't see tone or see facial cues or hear tone, or see facial cues. Texting what should be said in person is not only a missed opportunity, it's a chance to screw up royally. That's what it is. You're missing an opportunity. If you're texting instead of talking in person, you're missing an opportunity, and you're opening yourself up to screwing up, and we don't want to screw up. So make a rule that you'll only text logistics. So, where to meet for dinner, what time you're leaving work, do I need to pick up milk on the way home? None of these needs an emoji to understand its meaning or its tone. Okay, I'm not saying you can't add an emoji later. I love you, bye, right? But it's simple, straightforward, it's to the point. If you, again, want to throw in an I love you or I can't wait to see you, be my guest, but don't start a conversation on this level, okay? It's fine to use texting for help with, again, everyday planning and coordination, but everything else should be kind of off limits, right? If you've got something more to say, you're going to need to use your mouth, not your fingers. Unless you're having sex with your partner, then you can use both, your mouth and your fingers. Oh, it's a good one. Okay. Anyway, sorry. I got to have fun on here too. All right. So does that make, right? And again, like I just said to you, I text Gary sometimes, I love you or something. That's very different. It's occasional, whatever. And even that, don't do it all day. Don't do it every day, all day. Don't be, that you don't need to be connected to this person nonstop. Distance makes the heart grow fonder. It's a nice thing. This is your anxiety if you need nonstop communication, and you shouldn't be feeding your anxiety. And it's not love, by the way, it's fear. So let's not do that. Let's not do that. Let's get over that insecurity, over that part, and really, and even like I'm realizing right now what I said before, that when I text Gary like a little video of me saying I love him and whatever, it's not just because he gets to see my boobs, but because he doesn't always on these videos. People are trying to hack my account right now. You don't want to see my boobs. Anyway, but he likes those better. He loves those. And now, of course, I'm like, duh, Abby, all the research, right? Because he's seeing at least my face. It's more of an interaction. It took me a little more time. It's more, his love language is more around acts of service. So it's a little more of an act. I get it. Kind of works, right? So before we end, I just want to say a last word about passwords, sharing passwords. So I looked up, there's a lot of research on this actually. And overall, sharing passwords to digital devices or accounts is actually a fairly common practice in romantic relationships. I know. So I was really shocked actually. There's something like, one of the studies I read showed that people in a committed relationship, about 75% of them had given their partner or spouse their password to their cell phone. A little less do email. It's like 60%. Social media accounts are like 40%, and I have a lot of issues with this. I'll tell you why. Because I don't have access to any of Gary's stuff because I don't know why I would need it. If there's an emergency and he dies on the side of the road or something, I'm not going to like jump on his Facebook and let everybody know he died. That's not how I'm telling people. People who we know, I have their phone numbers. That's who needs to know. I don't need to pass it all over Facebook. So I don't need it for that. I'm not checking anything he's doing because that's crazy time. Stop checking what your partners are doing. I've done episodes on trust, building trust and honesty. I've done episodes on jealousy. This is another issue. If you are worried that your partner is quote unquote cheating, that's a problem. And that's something else that you should be working on. Not spending all the energy that you're spending tracking down and looking at what they're doing on social is the energy you should be spending connecting to them in person, in face, and having real talks. How's that? I'm giving you some tough Jewish mama love here. This stuff drives me crazy, and I can't tell you how many clients come to me with it over and over and over. And you will find things. I promise you. I'm sure if I looked in Gary's, I would find stuff. I'm sure I would find him, I don't know, some woman texting him and him saying hi back or something. I don't fucking care. This man is devoted to me. I feel completely safe and secure. If I find out in 10 years that Gary has a whole other family somewhere and he's been able to do that all these years and make me still feel like queen of the hill, God bless him. I'm not going to feel like a fool. I'm not going to be happy about it. I'm going to need to probably figure something else out. I'm assuming move on, but maybe I'll like her. I don't know. I don't know what to say to you. Like, I get that happens in extreme things, but like if this relationship has problems, already. You don't need to go look it up. You don't need to go catch it. Talk about the problems, talk about the trust, talk about other things. Go to therapy, do something else than spending your time lurking and searching. First of all, I don't want you to be that person, and you don't want to be that person. You don't like this person. This person sucks. This person is petty and small and jealous and controlling and crazy. And that is not you. I love you. That is not you. So your actions are who you are. So don't be that person. And I'm talking really directly and clearly, and you might never listen to me again. And oh well, like because I'm not going to lie to you about this. It's just bad form as far as I'm concerned. You don't, if there's some reason you need it that I haven't described, there's an emergency that you could possibly have to get in their email, I guess. But I don't know. I've been in many relationships over the last, I've had long-term relationships for many years, and I've never once had access to cell phones and all that stuff. And yes, I've been cheated on before. Many years ago, thank God, but I have. But I've never had access to that stuff, and it's been fine. Like, I've never thought, oh, I need to have that. Like, I haven't had to have it. You don't need it. So, and the only thing it does, again, is make you think like, oh, I want to get in there. It's gonna be that slot machine thinking, I'm just telling you. And you're going to go digging until you find something. Not when, until. You're going to keep digging, because I've had people do it. And they say, oh, I didn't find anything. I've been looking for a few months. I haven't found anything. But they're still looking. Why are you still looking? That's the point. It's never enough. It's because you're not taking care of the problem. If you've been looking already and you haven't found anything, then why are you still looking? And if you have been looking and you have found something, why are you still with the person if you don't trust them? You got to look at you. This is about you, not about them. This is about you and your boundaries, not about them, not about catching them, not about any of that stuff. And I am on a little high horse here, aren't I? I don't want to end on this note. Okay, I'm going to breathe, bring my energy back. I really don't want you living your life this way. If you had a week to live, is this what you'd be doing? Checking your partner's email? I don't think so. I would hope that you'd be spending the time in things that are for your greater good, for your partner's greater good, for the world's greater good. I hope that's how you'd spend your time. So spend it that way now, because that's the ticket to a happy life. I'll tell you that right now. If any of this was making you happy, hey, I would tell you to keep doing it. I know it's not. I don't even have to ask you. I know it's not. So let's stop. Let's stop doing things that don't make us happy. Let's start doing things that do. Let's start doing things that fill us, that are for our greater good, that are for the world's greater good, that really make us feel empowered and excited and enthusiastic and loving. That's what I'm going to leave you with this week. How do you like that? All right. I hope this really helped today. I love you. It's why I yell and scream at you sometimes. It's why I get Jewish mother bossy, because I just know you're capable of great things. And I promise it's not that far away, but you're probably going to need to change some of those little habits like I had to do since I've did this. Every time I do an episode, I change some habits because I realize there's some things I wasn't doing or doing as much as I could or less, and it's wonderful. And I always see my life as joy and growth, and that's success because, that's what I'm always going for. And I want you to go for it too. All right. Have an amazing, amazing, wonderful week. Stay close to yourself, your inner being. Know I love you. Love yourself. And I'm going to talk to you real soon.